thinking because she said I should trademark it. I would have loved to, but it is not. It's made by a professor called, I think, Professor Kell. He's a professor of high performance in athletics, and that's where I got this from. So ABCs of goals. Is it attainable? Can someone attain this? This goal I am putting down, is it attainable? Can someone attain this? And it's a question you would need to answer yourself. Number two, can I attain it? Do I believe that by so time in 2021, I would have attained this? Do I believe it is possible for me? I know that many people believe things are possible, but they don't know if it is possible for them. And you must be able to get to the point with any goal you're going to go after. There is no point going after a goal if you don't believe it, except you have a coach. That's the job of a coach, to get you into that mindset. But if you don't have a coach, if you're running at this, leading yourself, you must believe that you can go after that goal, whatever it is. You must believe that you can go after that goal and get it. Go after that goal and get it. The third thing, of course, is that you want to be able to say, yes, I am committed to getting this. Now, what is commitment? Commitment is not just looking at a goal and say, yeah, I'm committed to that. Commitment first understands what is required to get this done. What is required to get this done, right? What is required? You want to lose 5 stones. Okay, what is required to lose 5 stones? How exactly am I going to lose 5 stones? And am I able to commit to this? You see, your neighbor could be able to commit to certain pathways that you are not able to commit to. Your neighbor could be able to commit to that online course, but you are not able to commit to it. And it's fine, because we are all in different phases in our lives. But so we don't start and stop, or start and fail, we must understand, am I able to commit to this? I don't want to start a thing, and even the Bible says that who would start a thing, build a house, without first sitting down to understand the cost? Do you understand what is required to achieve that goal? Do you understand what is required to achieve that? No matter how big it is, there must be certain requirements in there. Are you able to commit to it? I set a goal once to be able to submit in becoming a chartered engineer. I wanted to become a chartered engineer, so I set a goal. I wanted to do it within 3 months and all of that, and to be able to write all of the reports, put together the forms and everything, speak to that person and all of that. It meant that when I looked at what was required, I thought, look, I would need this amount of hours. I need to be able to spend at least across 3 months, I must be able to spend between 40 to 50 hours on this. Now, I realized that, look, I can't find a chunk of 40 to 50 hours, but I can commit to 30 hours per day. That translates to at least 45 hours in 3 months. I can do 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes, no more, no less. No more, no less. It's understanding what you can commit to, and committing to that thing is quite important. See, life will not give you what you desire. It will not give you what you wish for. Life will give you what you commit to and get done. Your input is required in this. So, as you think about these ABCs and you're thinking about the goals you want to put down, there are 3 rules I want you to have at the back of your mind that you must do. You must do. You see, you must first of all write your goals down. write your goals down. Now, you know, when I started setting goals myself and all of that, there are some of these things I'm sharing with you today that I thought were childish. Oh, write my goals. I know what my goal is. Why should I write it down and all of that? No, but as I began to grow as a person and responsibility started to increase, I realized that there are many things that disappears in our thoughts, many intentions, many good things that disappears in our thoughts in the process of time. And except you begin to write things down, you will lose certain ideas, including your goals. So you must commit to write things down. The university or the Advanced Business School actually conducted a test. Conducted a social experiment. 60% of the guys in which they checked out did not have any goals. About 40% of them did have goals, but only 13% of those 40% actually wrote their goals down. After 10 years, only those 13% were able to do something about their goals. Now, the reality is, life shows us that if you are able to write down your goals, that it gives you a 42% chance to pursuing it, to achieving it at all, because it is something. You see, writing even in learning, I realized as a student that the amount of senses you use in learning increases the possibility of understanding. Now, as you begin to write your goals down, not just that, now I'm not saying write it down on a flimsy piece of paper that can be swept away tomorrow. I'm saying write it down in a place that you can go back to, that you can go back to. Write it down in a place that you can go back to. Yeah, I'm running out of time, so I'll just leave that point and just move on. So the other thing is make it visual. Now, please don't don't shut down on me here for those of us who are not necessarily visual. Now, what I mean by make it visual is that I don't want you to write it down, write it in your notes that you use for almost everything. And today you have written it down on page 10, and 2 weeks time you have written into that note onto page 99. Now your goals are lost in the pages of your all-purpose notes. No, that's what I'm trying to avoid. Well, every goal in which we believe is a worthy ideal to pursue must be set before us, not just in your notes, but it must be somewhere where you can be reminded, where you can see and say, look, this is what we are doing. This, if it's a family, I've heard of families that they just put the goal on the fridge. What we're doing is we're buying this house, and it puts your goal in the front burner of your mind. It puts your goal in the front burner of your mind. It puts it in well within your sight, where you will not, it's not something you can relegate to the background, because it is there. It is there. Even if you pretend as though you can see it, someone will walk in and say, oh, that. And you can then tell the person that, whoa, that's my goal. And this is important, guys. You want your goal to be at the forefront of your consciousness, the forefront of your consciousness. So some people are much more visual in the way they do things. They could have a vision board. The first time I attempted a vision board was the start of this year, and I was going through the pictures just before we started yesterday's meeting, and I realized that many of the pictures I have put there, I have attained or almost attained. Now, when I say almost, it's not like I failed. But I'm just at that point where it's all going to be breaking forth. Right? It's all done. I mean, my part of it is all done. I'm just waiting for it to come to fruition. Now, so this is important, because when we make it visual, when we put it in front of us, then we give ourselves the best chance of succeeding. we give ourselves the first chance of succeeding. I believe Owen will talk about this last part. He's talking about looking, looking for the right community to support you. You see, it was also Advert Business School. They said, look, people would more likely achieve their goals if the process is fun to them. So if they looked at it and said, look, a lady who wants to lose 5 pounds went to the gym, registered to the gym, and got to know this 3 new friends. Interesting. And every time they go for their gym classes and all of that. It's always a joy to meet them. Every time she was always looking forward to the gym now, not because of the workout, but because she's going to meet with friends. That she's more likely to achieve a dream because of that community of friends than someone who is standing alone. So it is important. When I say community, you don't have to have a community. You can have a physical community, but also surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, surrounding yourself people who have been there, reading books of people who have gone through and have been there. It is important because it feels as though you do have a cloud of witness that could help you, right? So that is quite important. So those are the 3 things. So how exactly do I go about this goal setting? Now, how do I go about this goal setting? Everywhere goal setting, you must set goals and all of that. But how exactly can I make this process such that I give myself the best chance to be able to get into this? And many of us might have heard of SMART goals, right? And today I'm here to say, look, SMART goals are good, but it's good that we are smarter in what we do, right? So what does SMARTER stand for? It stands for specific, measurable. Yeah, the graphics I'm using says attainable, but actually the word I'm going to be choosing for that A is actionable and relevant, timely, time bound. It means we do it within a set of time. Evaluate is the last E, and reward at the end. Now the SMART there talks about the process of making your goals and the plans for it. The ER there, the last ER which is evaluate and reward is looking at during the process. What do we do during the process of chasing our dreams and chasing our goals? What do we do? And I'm not going to talk too much about that because I know Owe will be talking about it. But it is important that we put it in perspective while we plan for our future. So specific. So it's the start of 2018. I'd realized that, look, I need to shed some weight. I really need to shed some weight. So I enrolled into the gym. Told myself, look, I'm gonna be going to the gym 3 times a week. I just want to shed some weight. And what the mistake I made was I never specified how much weight is enough weight. How do we know when to stop going to the gym, right? I am not a gym addict. I don't like to go to the gym. When do we know when to stop going to the gym? The reality is I did not have a specific goal. I just thought, well, I just want to shed some weight. I just want to shed some weight. You see, if you think about your goal as a target, you know that you have to be specific. What exactly are we trying to achieve here? Exactly are we trying to achieve here? So, for example, I talked about, okay, the person who goes to uni, for example, wants to graduate. And everybody wants to graduate. But the reality is, to set a better goal, what do you want to graduate with? What do you need to graduate with? What is the specific thing you want to do? Don't just leave it. I was speaking to someone close to me once, and I said, okay, what do you want to be in future? And he said, I'm going to be great. Okay, great. What do you want to be great in? So, I've not figured that out, but I'm going to be great. Now, the reality is that life, you can't pursue something that is not specific. Now, when you think about the game of darts again, the bull's eye is specific. It's not anywhere on the board. It's not just anywhere on the board. It is a specific. How do I know when I get there? How do I know if I am successful or not? How do I know if I can, if I am going to be, how far I should go, or how much commitment I need if I don't even know, if I'm not even specific about where I'm going? Even in Christianity, we talk about the expectation of the righteous. What is the specific thing that you want to achieve? Is it specific enough? You said, next year, I just want to be successful. What is that? What does that mean? What does that mean for you? So yeah, I just saw someone pop something into chat. Need to check it. Okay. My timekeeper is. What does that mean for you? What does specific mean for you? What does success mean to you? So when you begin to get into writing down your dream, you need to be able to say, look, this is what it is. This is what it is for me. Don't just set something that is all over the place, and even someone else will not be able to pick it up and say, this is what they're trying to do, or this is what Mr. A or Mrs. B is trying to do. So the other thing is that it has to be measurable. When we put our dreams to the test, when we go on in life, you might have heard this saying that says, if it is not measurable, it is not manageable. You cannot manage what you do not measure. It's impossible to manage what you cannot measure. Now, I was actually, I told you that I like to sit down and think about what makes the difference. And about 6 months ago, I started looking at the word measurable here, just as it relates to life, and the fact that we all need to be tracking our progress. Do you know, there was a day I sat down and I realized that I do that quite well with my money. I measure my money. I have a budget and I track how I spend my money. But I realized that I did not track how my weight and my health and all of that. So I started checking on a daily basis how much I weighed, and also tracking how much I ate. Now, before then, I thought anybody who would come to me, I said, I don't eat more than 3 times a day. But now I had told myself that everything that goes into this mouth, right, we are going to write it down, and we're going to write the quantity, and we are going to understand exactly why the weight is slow in coming down. So and the first day I was able to see why. I was not eating 3 times daily. I was not eating 4 times. I was eating every single time I strolled into the kitchen, right? So, and that note was with me, and I was putting it down. I just had a handful of chin chin, right? I just had, I just drank a quarter of a cup of juice. I just did this, I just did that. And as I began to write it down, tracking exactly what I was doing, it became clear Now, what was I doing there? I was measuring myself, because what you don't measure, you don't manage appropriately. So now I'm able to manage what I eat, tell myself that, look, if somebody were to be talking about health and said, oh, people who nibble a lot, I wouldn't have considered that I did so until I began to measure what I was doing. Now, in the place of your finance, are you measuring what you're doing? In the place of that goal that you're about to set, do you know how to measure your progress? Can you measure your progress? Do you know when you have gone 10%? Do you know when you have gone 50%? Okay, now you are going to be the gym. What are you going to be doing in the gym? You and I know that you can go to the gym for an hour, but only 10 minutes is productive, because you could sit around in the gym doing nothing, right? So what exactly are you going to be doing in the gym, and how long for? So if you're going to be spending 30 minutes of actual workout in the gym, you could go for an hour, rest, do the first 15 minutes, rest for 10 minutes, go another 15 minutes, rest for 5 minutes, and go home. That is your 30 minutes there, but you have spent 45 minutes as a whole in the gym. So do you know how to measure what you need to do? The next thing, because of our time, is actionable. Now, this is very important here, because this is where I will talk about a plan. And I'll just jump straight right into it, because many people have a goal, but they don't have a plan. They have a goal. We want to eat this goal, but they don't have a plan. And sometimes our goals are so big that it becomes overwhelming, because we have not broken them down into actions. We have not broken them down into action. You have this big project you want to do. Do you know what the steps are? What the steps you need to take to be able to get there? Now, when you set your goal is not well set until you have a plan put together, saying that these are the actions we will take, and these are the days we will take those actions. If it is not actionable, it is not a goal. If you cannot put your goals into actions and activities, it is not a goal. It could be a prayer, it could be a wish, but definitely not a goal, because it's outside of your control. It is outside of your control. So now you want to be able to break it down and say, okay, the 1st of January, if that's what you want to do, like I said, I'm not a fan of waiting till the 1st of January. I wonder why you cannot start today or tomorrow or next tomorrow. Why do you need to waste the next 3 weeks simply because there is a new year? Now, but if you want to go down that route, so be it. 1st of January, do you know the actions that you will need to take? Do you know the actions that you will need to take? When you need to take those actions? The first action, the second action, the third action, and how you would progressively go on to achieve that goal. Now, for some of us, the goal is straightforward. The action, it tells itself. Yes, but you need to understand what is the whole requirement for this action. So I've spoken about this before at the start. Is the goal relevant? Talks about, is it relevant to you? And I spent a lot of time on this yesterday talking about you. And whatever goal you're going to be setting out of this, it has to be relevant. It has to come from a deep place of a why, where you know why you're doing it, and it's in line with your innermost person, and also your outer purpose as well. So I won't spend too much time on this because of my time. Is it relevant? Is it relevant to you? Is it relevant to the purpose you have in mind? Is it time bound? There is something called the Parkinson's law. The Parkinson's law says that I'll paraphrase. It says that if you set set out to do something for 6 months, do an activity for 6 months that would normally that can take 2 weeks, at the end of the day, it will take 6 months. If you set an activity to be done in 6 months, that will normally take 2 weeks, at the end of the day, it will take 6 months, because work in itself flows to fill out the time that is available. So that's why even nowadays, when we do have self-paced courses, you paid for a course like last year, you have not done it till now. It's quite expensive, but you will do it someday. And some other person knows that it takes just 2 months and you have finished it last year, but you have not done yours because you will do it someday. So we have to understand that our goals are effective when we put them in proper time slots, when we have milestones within those goals. Yes, this action needs to be done, this action needs to be done, and this is the milestone for this time, and this is the time frame in which you're going to have them done. So it is important that we know that, okay, my goal is to have it done at this time, not someday in the future, not sometime, or we would say that tomorrow is actually not in the calendar, because tomorrow, the 13th of December, there is going to be another tomorrow. When are you going to have it done? When are you going to have it done? When are you going to have those actions align with your purpose? When are you going to stand up and get action A done, action B done, and all of that? That is what you must tie together with what I talked about before, the actionable, the actions, and then it comes to a solidified plan that allows us. See, you can set goals all you like. If you don't break them down into actions within time, you will always be frustrated. Now, this is important, because what I need to do today for my overall goal, what I need to do today is what I have planned to do today. I don't need to care about what I plan to do on Thursday. All I need to care about is the goal for today, the action for today, because it is the action for today that gives the platform for the action for tomorrow. Because if the one for today is not done, I set myself into a spiral of failure. So it is important that we know that if I break my goal down into actions, little actions, all I need to care about today is not the big picture or the burden of the entire thing, but what I need to care about today is the actions for today. I have 63 chapters to read. I have calculated it that, if I can spend time reading 3 chapters every single day, in the next 21 days, I would finish the book, and then a week later, I can go in for the exams. All I need to care about today is not the 63 chapters of the book. All I need to care about today, the goal for today, not for tomorrow, the one for today, is just 3 chapters. And that's liberating to know, because all I need to care about is today, the 3 chapters. Can I ask you, do you know what you need to care about today? Do you know on the 1st of January, when you are saying, okay, we're going for this, do you know what you need to care about on that day? Or are you willing to put it into the sea of Parkinson's law, that I will do it someday? And because someday is not defined, it feels all the days. You are bothered about it on Monday, you did nothing. Then you're bothered about it on Tuesday, you did nothing. You're bothered about it on Wednesday, you did nothing, because you will do it someday. It occupies your thoughts, but you did nothing. And for those of you who know quite well, you know that when something occupies your thoughts, it keeps you in a state of pseudo business, but you don't do anything. It is a place where you seem to be spinning, like they say where I come from, like the chair in the barber shop but you're going nowhere. Now, it is important that we ensure that our goals are in time slots. Ensure you get the activities done or planned for a day and done on that day. So as we go in the journey, or we will talk about this a lot more, you need to keep evaluating. How have I done? Life happens, right? Yes, things can happen. That means that you miss the day or you miss 2 days and all of that. It is not to just drop your head that you have failed. It's evaluate and replan to be able to move forward. Be flexible enough to do so. Now that you have committed to things, know that look, within that commitment, there needs to be flexibility to be able to go ahead. And when you can reward yourself, do so. Do so. If you hit a milestone, for example, if you finish writing that book, for example, you can take yourself to your favorite restaurant. You can make the process enjoyable. Reward yourself. I do that myself and my wife try to do that from time to time, where we just say, okay, this month because of this, we go out and do this, but just because of this milestone or something. So it's important. It's important that we find those opportunities to be able to 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 appraise ourselves and say, yeah, Kaide, you've done well. You tell me, yeah, you've done well. You've done well. And there is no problem with that because then you know you've closed one chapter and you are able to fire on to the next. And on that note, uh, I actually wanted to ask for quite a number of questions, but I think I might have gone slightly past my time. So on that note, I would hand the entire thing back to Aisha. Also, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, okay, for that session. I actually learned something new, smarter. So make sure, like he said, that even after you set your goals today, that you are ready to go back and evaluate at some point and reward yourself. It's all about, when we have projects at work, we're always sort of have little milestones and you reward yourself, once you'll be able to achieve something. So I'm now going to pass on to our second speaker of today, Owe. So Owe, over to you.
All right, I do apologize for all that. I wasn't already talking. I was just grumbling at the fact that for whatever weird reason, I could not unmute myself. And I was just ranting. It's a good thing none of you heard that because I was still on mute. Okay, all right. So today we are going to be looking at how to achieve our smarter goals, And I think even I didn't even, I mean, I've heard of SMART before, but I've never heard of SMARTER. So that was a new one for me. Okay, so in order not to waste too much time, I'm just gonna share my screen now and take you on straight to, so share screen, yeah, all right, good. So there is something I have been, quite grateful for learning, and I always like to I always like to share that with people. And beyond the fact that, yes, yesterday we talked about taking responsibility for our lives, yes, we do understand that. But at the end of the day, our minds being the epicenter of our performance sometimes gets the best of us. Our minds sometimes get the best of us. And it is, if we are not deliberate with how we use our minds, we could just watch our lives go down the drain. We might have those goals that we might have been excited when we were setting them, but the actual achieving of those of those goals, when life starts to happen to us, we begin to fall. We begin to fall out of track and things like that. So you change your life by changing your attitude of mind. You change your life by changing your attitude of mind. Now, William James, he said, human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind. Human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind. Why is that important? Because, like I said, your mind is the epicenter of performance. Everything that you do is going to be a function of your mindset. Your mind is the tool with which you can achieve whatever goals that you set. Your mind is the part of you that has the power to create and destroy. And why is that? Because it is your mind that will tell you, all right, let's set these goals. It is that same mind that will tell you, oh, you know what, I don't want to do it anymore. Oh, it's too difficult for me to do. So there is a role that we have to play in, first of all, understanding that our performance ultimately is determined, or dependent on our mind, and making sure that we can work on our minds. An Indian speaker named Osho Rajni, he said this. He said, your mind is a garden. Your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or weeds. Your mind is a garden. Your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. You see, your mind gives back to you whatever you put in it. And that's why your thoughts are your seed. Now, if your thoughts are your seed, and your thoughts will basically give back to you what you plant into it, into your thoughts basically being the seed, will germinate in your mind, whatever seed they are, then I think what we then need to start focusing on is what influences our thoughts. What influences your thoughts? What enters through the gates of your life? What do you see with your eyes? What do you hear with your ears? What do you say with your mouth? You see, what we say, we multiply. Whatever we say, we multiply. Whatever we see or we hear, it enters into our spirits, and it begins to inform our decisions. What books do you read? Who are you listening to? Who is speaking into your life? What sort of TV shows do we watch? How much time do we spend watching these things? Now, I'm not against us watching TV and things like that. But what exactly are we watching? How much time are we spending watching that thing? You see, I listened to this this teaching by Jim Rohn, and he said, many of us fail to understand that the cost of television goes beyond the actual price we paid to buy that television. The cost of television is both the price we paid to purchase that TV and the amount of time we spend watching that TV. Now, I'm going to ask you, what is the value of your time? What is the value of your time? If you understand the value of your time, then for each hour you spend watching TV, just watching a show, you should be considering, how much are you losing? How much are you losing? You might say, but is it a bad thing if I relax? No, it's not. But there is a difference between relaxing to regain energy or relaxing to escape from the work that you should be doing. What is your work ethic? What is your attitude towards your goals? The reason why we will set smarter goals at the start of the year and give up somewhere down the line is mainly a function of our attitude of mind. Our attitude of mind. The next thing that we should think about when we set goals, one of the things that could be a hindrance, and you might want to ask yourself is, do you own your dreams? Whatever goals that you set, did you just set it because someone else set it? Did you set it because it looked good on someone else? Or is it something that you were convicted by? Is it something that was passionate for you? You see, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." So many of us are into the school of me too, me too, me too. Now, I'm not saying that you must do something unique all the time. I'm saying that whatever you choose to do, like Kay said earlier on, what is the why for doing it? Do you own that dream, or did you simply just copy it? Do you own that dream, or did you simply just copy it? You see, it is important that you own your dream and not that you have copied someone else. Why? Because without conviction, nothing is worth doing. Without conviction, nothing is worth doing. And what is conviction? Conviction is the fuel of staying power. Conviction is the fuel of staying power. So it's easy to start something. And that's why many of us, during the first few weeks of setting our goals, we feel really energized and we're going at it. But how long do we stay with it? How convicted are we about, whatever goal it is that we've set? So in designing your dream, now, yesterday I focused a lot about how we can make money, how we can try to say, my target is to be a certain network by a particular age. And you might be asking, okay, how do I design a business? How do I decide what products that I want to offer? Now, there's a model called the Ansoff Matrix, ANSOFF Matrix, MATRIX. Please go and have a look at it. I'm going to be talking about it now. Now, what that model does is it helps you to find a strategic fit, for yourself in the marketplace. Now, the first quadrant of that matrix basically looks at an existing market and an existing product. So if you're thinking about starting a business and you don't know where to start, this can help you in a way, because you can look at the market now. Yesterday we talked about looking at your environment. Look into the market. What products are actually selling in the market? And is there already a market for those products? If you decide that you have the skill, to produce those same products or services, and you want to offer that, you would need to design your strategy for entering into that market. You'll need to design your strategy for entering into that market, especially if that market is already saturated. Why am I talking about this? Because many of us sometimes we stop at our goal simply because it becomes difficult. We stop at our goal simply because we face challenges, but if things were easy, everyone will do it. So that's a part, it's just a part of the process. The strategy then that you want to design, if you want to enter an existing market with an existing product, is you want to consider your pricing strategy. If a market already exists, a product already exists, and that market is saturated, the only way to penetrate that market is probably by considering lowering your prices. Now you might say, oh, this is not a marketing class, or, I'm not here to learn about business. You see, whatever vision you have, whatever goal you have, if it does not add value, then what is it? Is it just a hobby? Now, the way to determine whether something has value is a function of how many people want it and how many people are willing to pay for it. How many people want it and how many people are willing to pay for it. So there must be a market for whatever product or service that you want to offer. Now, in that same matrix, there is an existing market. So the second quadrant in that matrix is there's an existing market, but you have a new product. So there, you've done your market research and there is a need for this product, but no one owns that product. Now, that is what we call innovation. That's what we call innovation. So the product that you have never existed. You made that product and you have found that there is a need for that product. You were able to find a gap in that market. The next thing, the third part of that quadrant is where you have a new market and existing product. In other words, you have a product that always existed, but there is no market for it. You might say, if there's no market for it, how do I go about doing it? Well, what you want to probably do is have your sales strategy. You want to have a sales strategy. Now, recently I read a book by Simon Sinek. It's called The Tipping Point. And he mentioned, he talked about, pandemics and how things become pandemics. That was more or less like his the anecdote or the what do I call it now? The sort of story or background behind what he was trying to explain. And he mentioned that there are three kinds of people. You have a connector, you have a maven, and you have what you call a salesperson. Now, each of those three people are the people that help spread the word or spread the pandemic, be that as it may. But each of them have 3 degrees at which, they're able to spread the word and increase the market. The connector is not really invested, but he could just do a word of mouth kind of thing. And maybe 1 or 2 people hear about it. The maven is the kind of person that probably has some sort of character to him, which makes his word of mouth have a little bit more power than the connector. And then, that person spreads the word. And then maybe you get an additional 10 people that get to know about your product. And then you have the salesperson. Now, the salesperson is the person who is not only interested, but is committed. He has the character and he has the skill. So you're going to need, where you've got a product and there's no existing market, you're going to need to be able to create that market yourself by applying the right sales strategy. Now, in the 4th quadrant of the answer matrix, you have what you call diversification, which I spoke about, yesterday, and that is a new market and a new product. In that quadrant, you want to be able to combine both a sales strategy and an innovative strategy. Now, you might say, well, all those things don't make sense. All those things are difficult for me. How do I go about doing this? If you go back to the first thing we talked about, which is your attitude of mind, your mind is the tool with which you can either create or destroy. The problem that we have is that many of us do not apply our minds to designing ideas or coming up with strategies and things like this. If we simply employ the habit of sitting down to think, how can I do what I do better? Is there a market for my product? Or what is there a need for that people have not already started designing? If we simply started to do that, what starts to happen is there is something called the law of attraction. Law of attraction basically states when we begin to think on things, when we begin to focus on certain things, all the resources that we need in order to achieve that begins to get attracted to us and begin to find their ways to us. In science, there's something also called the reticular activating system, the RAS. And what that means is the moment you begin to think about something, you begin to see it everywhere. So whatever ideas that you think you don't have, if you simply start spending time to think, what's going to happen is that you're going to find yourself generating more and more of these ideas. and the answers or the resources that you need for the fulfillment of your goal begins to make itself available. All right. Now, the next thing that you want to make sure that you do is don't wait for the ideal or perfect condition to act. Do not wait for the ideal or perfect condition to act. And that's where many of us, we set these goals, we have this good plan and things that we want to do, but we start to wait and we start to think, when do I start? Things are not perfect. Things cannot always be perfect before you start. John Maxwell said, excuses are like exit signs on the road of progress. They take us off track. It's easier to move from failure to success than to move from excuses to success. It's easier to move from failure to success than to move from excuses to success. When they asked Thomas Edison, how did he feel, failing about 1,000 times thereabouts to create the light bulb? He said, well, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just found, 1,000 ways not to create a light bulb. So your attitude of mind towards failure, if you understand failure as part of the process, you would not be waiting for the perfect condition. Dale Carnegie, he said, the person who gets farthest is generally the one who is willing to do and dare. The sure-thing boat never gets far from the shore. So if you're waiting for things to be perfect, you're never really going to get far away from the shore. So you need to start the process. The thing with going on a journey is that the more you begin to advance, the clearer you begin to see. If you're going to walk 5 miles, you're not going to be able to see the whole 5-mile distance. But for every step you take, you're able to see something further. You don't have to see the whole picture. The whole picture doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to start. The other thing is that you don't want to wait until you feel like doing something before you start. Don't wait until you feel like doing something. Someone said, if we only did the things that we feel like doing, we will not do much. If we only did the things that we feel like doing, we wouldn't do much. Now, I do understand that for many of us, it's difficult to get past our feelings, and feelings can be so powerful. We are often moved by emotions. But I want to tell you something that was researched by Dr. George W. Crane. Interestingly, I think we've gotten the order wrong. We seem to think that when we feel like we can do, but his research has proved that actually the reverse is the case. When we do is when we begin to feel like, and this is what he said. He said, motions are the precursors of emotions. Motions are the precursors of emotions. He said, you can't control them directly, but only through your choice of motion or action. He says, go through the proper motions each day, and you will soon begin to feel the corresponding emotions. We therefore can change our attitude simply by changing our actions. I don't know how many of you have woken up feeling blue. How difficult was it for you to get through that day? Extremely difficult, wasn't it? But when you wake up and you're feeling really energized, you're able to get through your day really quickly. But what he's saying is, rather than focus on the emotion before acting, we need to decide we are going to act and begin to do the right actions that will give us the emotions that we want. And there was an experiment that was carried out. And if you would indulge me, I would like you to try it. He said, when people smile and smile with all their teeth, when people laugh, even if they do not feel like laughing, the mere act of laughing really out loud, even though you don't feel like, actually makes you begin to feel like laughing. And I beg you to please try it out, just in case you don't believe me, because so many times, many of us are victims of our emotions, but we applying the right, actions can influence our emotions. Our actions are meant to influence our emotions, not vice versa. And the sad thing about, allowing your emotions to influence your actions is when your emotions begin to influence your actions, those emotions will drive you to do the actions that continually fuel those emotions. Do you get that? Those emotions will drive you to continually do the actions that is fueling that emotion. So you feel sad and gloomy and you don't want to do anything. And then you sit down in your bed and your mind begins to wander, and your mind begins to attract all kinds of, thoughts, ideas that make you even want to keep staying in bed and not spoil yourself into actions. Okay. So if you want to change your emotion or how you feel, you've got to change your action. And this is something I've tried before. And this is why so many people, they like to do exercises. Some people like to run, some people like to go on jogs. I've found that if I'm feeling blue, and I don't want to do any sort of work, I don't want to do my activities, my productive activities for the day. If I simply go for a run or do exercise, by the time I do that, I start feeling a little bit better about my day, and I'm able to spur myself into action. Okay, so don't depend on your emotions. Decide what emotions, how you want to feel, and then begin to do the activities that will drive that emotion. Okay. The next thing that you want to do is you want to design a strategy. You see, Michael Porter said the essence of strategy is choosing what not to do. The essence of strategy is choosing what not to do. Now, what is strategy? CIMA, this is a long definition. CIMA defines strategy as the course of action, including the specification of resources required to achieve specific objectives, which we've talked about today, and a strategic plan as a statement of long-term goals, along with a definition of strategies and policies which will ensure the achievement of these goals. So there must be intentionality in it. The components of whatever your strategic plan is will include, the resources that you have. The resources that you have will include things like time. It will include things like, your skill. It will include things like your community, the people around you that can help, your role model, your mentor. It will include thinking about where you want to go. It will include thinking about, the direction that you want to head, you want to head in. You see, at the end of the day, when you look at all those resources that you have, you might say, well, I don't have money, or I don't have friends, or I don't have a role model. There is one thing that all of us have, and that one thing that we have is time. Time is our biggest asset. Now, Miles Monroe said a few statements about time, which I like to say to everyone. Time is the currency of life. Okay. What you do, what you become is determined by how you spend your time. What you become is determined by how you spend your time. Whatever you are today is a product of how you've spent your time. Whatever you are today is a product of how you've spent your time. So at the end of the day, since we all have 24 hours and since we cannot control time, the best thing that we can do is we can manage time. The best thing that we can do is that we can manage time. Now, in the 7 habits of highly effective people, the third habit shows us how to manage time. And Steve Harcovy comes up with this time management matrix, and it defines how we spend our times into 4 different quadrants, by looking at urgent, not urgent versus important and not important. Now, I found this tool to be extremely valuable for helping me manage my time effectively. Now, when you look at the quadrant, the first quadrant is quadrant 1, and that deals with urgent and important things. Urgent and important things. Now, in the urgent and important things, you deal with things like crisis, you deal with things like deadlines, you deal with things like problems. Now, the proactive individual is supposed to manage his time and his resources after, setting your goals and everything in such a way that you minimize the amount of time that you spend in quadrant 1. Why? Because if you are constantly in quadrant 1, it is actually a sign of mismanaging your time, or, there are things that could happen, like a crisis, a pandemic. It's not something that is within your control. However, it's not meant to be a constant. So you would always find yourself, once in a while in quadrant 1. But if you consistently find yourself in quadrant 1, what tends to happen to us is that we burn out. Because if you are on a daily basis dealing with urgent deadlines, if you're on a daily basis dealing with, persistent problems, if you're on a daily basis dealing with crisis, you will burn out. Now, what proactive people tend to do is make sure that they can put themselves in quadrant 2. And what does quadrant 2 do? Quadrant 2 is the not urgent but important things. So if I manage my time appropriately, I shouldn't have to be working to deadline every time, which means if I have to finish a project, by Friday, if I manage my time appropriately, I should be trying to make sure I finish that project by Thursday at the latest, or even by Wednesday. That way I can go over the project again. I can review the project. I can catch whatever mistakes that I may have made. However, if I'm only working to deadline and I'm waiting till the last minute to deliver that project, I will be prone to errors. Now, if I plan my time properly, if I utilize my resource of time properly, then many of the things such as your deadlines or pressing problems will not get into a position where it becomes urgent. Okay? Now, the worst place that you want to find yourself is dealing with dealing with not urgent things that are not important. So I've jumped to quadrant 4, busy work, some phone calls, some emails, time wasters, doing nothing. You see, when something is not urgent and something is not important, the sense of urgency that will normally spur us to do things is no longer there. But we tend to feel comfortable. We tend to feel comfortable in that zone. And that's a very, very dangerous zone to be. You want to make sure that if you've set out your goals, if you've decided what is valuable, what is important to you, none of your time effectively should be spent in quadrant 4. So what many of us might want to do after today is, draw up this matrix in our own homes and begin to put certain activities, how we spend our time, in all the specific categories. But first of all, you must first identify what is important, what are the things that are of value to you. Quadrant 3 quadrant 3, on the other hand, are urgent things, but they are not important. Urgent things that are not important. If you're simply driven by a sense of urgency, you will always find yourself in quadrant 3, where you are doing urgent things, but those things are not important, and that's more or less being busy without being productive. Being busy without being productive. In the workplace, I see a lot of people doing that, spending their time, in quadrant 3, urgent things, but are not important. When you live a principles-based life, when you live a values-based life, the things that are important to you and you have principles, when you don't live a life where it is simply just centered on yourself, a self-centered life, you are able to plan your life accordingly such that you are not finding yourself in quadrant 3 or quadrant 4, okay? Now, your strategy must incorporate a system. And I think this is really key. James Clear said that we do not rise to the level of our goals, but rather we fall to the level of our systems. We do not rise to the level of our goals, but rather we fall to the level of our systems. So what systems do you have in place? Or you might be asking, what are systems? Systems are basically things that you've put in place to ensure that you stay in track with your goal. When you have a system in place, a timetable, for instance, can be a system. If you design the matrix that I have before you and you put certain things in certain categories, it's a system for how you manage your time. Systems are those things that help you to stay on track. When you have a system, it means that you don't have to do everything from scratch. Why? Because once the system is in place, once the system is running, it more or less works on automatic. Like if you look at the government of the United Kingdom, for instance, you can see that there is a system that works. And that is why even when there is change in power, NHS does not suddenly fall apart. The police does not certainly fall apart. The tax system does not suddenly fall apart. Why? Because they have a system. They have a system that works. If your life is in crisis, you might want to design a system that works for you. In designing your system or knowing how to spend your time, you might want to consider, what is the best possible use of my time per day? In your day, what time of the day is more productive for you? What time of your day is the time where you are best suited to carry out certain tasks? For me, I like to do certain tasks early in the morning. I like to do my difficult tasks early in the morning. I like to study or learn early in the morning because it's much more quieter. I can focus. During the later part of the day when the environment becomes noisy, I like to do easier tasks. Now, if I don't have a system, if I've not, first of all, carried out a self-appraisal to understand myself that way, and I just start my day and I'm just driven by urgency, I don't have a system that works. The moment I start my morning by doing the easier task, when I'm a lot more stronger, when I'm a lot more focused, when it's a lot more quieter, I spend my time doing easy tasks. Yes, I might do them all well and good. The problem is later on in the day, when things become busy, when things become difficult, when I become a lot tired and I want to do the much more difficult tasks, I will struggle. I will struggle. So having a system that allows you to maximize your time, even in the day, what is the best use of my time? At certain hours, what is the best use of my time? What time do I focus more? What time am I more energized? So you might want to ask yourself, what systems do I have in place for my personal growth? You see, we must learn, as Jim Rohn says, you must learn to work harder on yourself than you do on the job. The reason why you could be easily replaced in your job is because, well, you've not upskilled yourself. But if you work harder on yourself than you do on the job, you're always ahead of the game. So what systems do you have in place, for your personal development? What systems do you have in place for your family time? A lot of us are so focused on work, we don't spend time with our family. And before we know it, at the end of the day, we're saying, well, I have to work, I don't have time, blah, 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 and things like that. If you have a system in place, if you value family time, you would have already scheduled your day such that there's still time to spend with your family. What systems do you have in place to ensure that you're productive at work? What systems do you have in place to ensure that you have a productive day? You see, with a system in place, you don't have to start anything from scratch. John Maxwell said, with systems, ordinary people can do extraordinary things consistently. But when there's no system in place, even extraordinary people will struggle to do ordinary things. Okay. The next thing that you want to do, once you've set up your strategies, you want to make sure that you are consistent. And the thing is that it's going to be difficult. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes you just don't feel like, and that's why I started by talking about the attitude of mind, because once your attitude is not right, you don't want to do it, and John Maxwell says this. He says motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you going. The truth of the matter is that whether we like it or not, we must be disciplined. It is discipline that helps us to remain consistent. Kay talked about commitment. Are you committed? Are you committed? Without commitment, we can't achieve anything. I'm reminded of this joke I heard from Les Brown. He said the chicken was involved, but the pig was committed. The chicken was involved, but the pig was committed. And you might be saying, what does that mean? What that means is he's talking about, what's it called? Chicken and egg bacon. The chicken will provide the egg. So it just laid the eggs. The chicken is still alive, but the pig unfortunately dies in the matter. The chicken itself dies in the matter. So commitment is what ensures that you stay till the end of the race. You see, no one wins a race unless they stick with it to the end. Benjamin Disraeli, he said this. He says, I've brought myself by long meditation to the conviction that a human being with a settled purpose must accomplish it, and that nothing, absolutely nothing can resist the will, a will which will stake even its existence upon its fulfillment. Whatever you've proposed to do, Kay talked about your why. Are you willing to stake your existence on it? You see, until we've gotten to the place where you will rather die than not see something through. Once it gets difficult, we're going to quit. Once it gets difficult, we're going to quit. So your why needs to be so strong that you're willing to even stake your existence on it. Okay. The next thing that you want to do is that you want to make pain your ally. You want to make pain your friend. You see, pain is really not the enemy. Pain is really not the enemy. You know, John Maxwell, in his 15 laws of growth, you know, he says, good management of bad experiences leads to great growth. Good management of bad experiences leads to great growth. You see, whether we like it or not, we will experience pain. You will experience disappointments, and it does hurt. Whether we like it or not, these things happen. But how do we deal with these bad experiences? You see, psychologists have actually found that we are able to retain the knowledge of pain longer or more than the knowledge of joy. We are able to retain the knowledge of pain more than the knowledge of joy. So if pain helps us learn, it then means that we wouldn't have to repeat certain lessons, because the reason why we repeat certain lessons is because we have not learned it, so we're not able to apply it again. But if we've made pain our ally, rather than crying about things and feeling sorry about, you know, it's difficult, it hurts. We know, I'm not denying that. You know, I don't like to be hurt. But what I do is I don't allow my pain to go wasted. Do not waste your pain. Take the lessons that come from pain. You know, in fact, Dennis Woolley, he said something. He said, expecting the world to treat you fairly just because you're a good person is like expecting the bull not to attack you because you are a vegetarian. So expecting the world to treat you fairly just because you're a good person is like expecting the bull not to charge you or attack you just because you're a vegetarian. Pain is a part of the process. If we fail to benefit from it, we don't take the lessons that it brings. We don't take the lessons that it brings. The last thing that, you know, we need to consider is we need to stretch. We need to stretch ourselves outside of our comfort zone. Every good thing, every dream that we want to achieve is on the other side of our comfort. It's on the other side of our comfort. You know, Max Dupree, he said, we cannot become what we want by remaining what we are. We cannot become what we want by remaining what we are. See, whatever it is that we want to achieve, if it is of value, it will not come easy. And that's the truth. Anything that is of value does not come easy. See, life won't just hand it to you just because you are a nice person. Life is not going to say, oh, okay, you want this, go ahead, take it, you're so good. No, you've got to work hard for it if it is of value. You see, the truth is, whether we like it or not, ease and difficulty is in everyone's timeline. There is a time for ease and there is a time for difficulty. The good news, however, is that we have the ability to decide where in our timeline we can have ease and where we will have difficulty. You see, Jim Rohn says, don't wish things were easy, wish you were better. The reason why saying things might be difficult for you is because you don't have the skill, you know, and that's why he will say we should make up in time what we lack in skill. Why? Because the better you get at something, the more systems you have in place, the easier it becomes for you. Les Brown would say, if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. But if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. So if your life is hard, you need to check, what are you doing? Are you doing the easy things? If you're doing the easy things, your life will be hard. But if you're doing the hard things, your life will be easy. You see, we must learn to work hard enough, you know, for now, denying ourselves certain things, so that the time will come where we will no longer need to deny ourselves of these things. Whatever goals that you want to achieve, whatever it is that you want to become, whatever is your financial freedom number, you know, whatever will take you out of debt, whatever job you want to attain, whatever business you want to pursue, it's going to be tough. But if you simply, commit yourself, if you own your dreams, if you're willing to stretch, if you're willing to make pain your ally, if you're gonna manage your time properly and all that, all those things you can achieve. When things become easy, it means everyone can do it. It also means that we lose our competitive advantage. Once everyone can copy whatever it is that you can do, whatever premium that you commanded in the market as a result of what you're doing, you lose it. Whatever premium you commanded as a result of what it is you were doing, you lose it. So that it is hard to copy is a good thing. Why? Because someone else cannot just go and do it. If they do that, they can steal your customers, they can steal your market. Okay? So difficulty in something actually gives it its value. You see, many of us do not appreciate anything that will come to us easy. Many of us do not appreciate many things that will come to us easy. So I'm going to close, by saying this story that I heard from Les Brown, which basically he got from Dr. Howard Thurman. He said, the ideal situation for any person to die is for that person to die with his family members around him, praying, with him, and, you can say your goodbyes and that you can pass on. But imagine if on your deathbed, rather than having your family members around you, and helping you, praying with you as you cross over to the other side, the ghosts of all the goals that you set, the ideas that you had, the dreams that you had, the vision that you had, the product you could have innovated, is standing there looking at you with large, angry eyes. Will that not be a torment for you? Will that not be a torment for you? This is why, Miles Monroe says, the wealthiest place on the planet is actually the cemetery. It's not any oil mine or gold mine or oil well or whatever. It's actually the cemetery. Why? Because a lot of people, you and I, we are allowing ourselves to die without achieving the goals that we set, the vision that God has placed inside of us that only we could achieve, the song that only you could write, the book that only I could write, the message that only I could have preached, the product that only you could have designed or whatever. If you allow the fear or the difficulty or the challenges that you face in bringing those things to life, if you take that to the grave, you will be contributing to the wealth of the grave. At the end of the day, I want to be like Apostle Paul, the first century theologian, who said, I have run my race, I have fought the good fight, and now awaited me a crown. I have finished. I'm now being poured out like a drink offering. Miles Monroe will say, live full, but die empty. Live full, but die empty. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, please do feel free to contact us. I'm going to hand over to my host. I think I'm stepping into her arena right now. Ikeoloa, over to you.
Thank you so much, Owe, for that session. Again, fountain and pearls of wisdom. Wow, what a quote to finish on. Live full and die empty. Live full and die empty. I will make sure to remember that. And we're just going to open the floor up for Q&A. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat for everyone to see, or you can private message myself, Owe, or Uncle K. So I'm just going to give you a couple of seconds. There's a function for you to be able to raise your hand if you would prefer to ask your question directly without typing in the chat room. So I'm just going to give us a minute just to see if anyone has a question. myself. Apologies, technology, I have muted myself. Right, so I was just going to say, we've not had any questions come through, but I wanted to leave you with this, from what Owe and Uncle K have said for the past 2 days. Either you go away and you do some further reading to have more understanding. Today, you've been provided with information. Now the part of transformation is now left to you to make sure you go away and you put into practice and apply the things that you've heard today. And remember, it's not all about the 1st of January. You can start now. Or tomorrow. So in the absence of any questions, we hope you found these past 2 sessions beneficial, and we would greatly appreciate if you could either send feedback to myself or Owe or Uncle K. We would appreciate that, and you just let us know what you enjoyed about the sessions, and if it's something you're interested in that you want us to continue to do. We want to hear from you, so please do send your feedback your feedback to us. We would, like I say, greatly appreciate it. So I'm just gonna, just end today's session. I just want to thank you again, for joining us today. I really, truly hope that today will mark a beginning of something great in your life. And I will see you soon on another session. Thank you, everybody, and take care. Bye.
Bye.